Is Palantir becoming a hedge fund? Today, I'm going to explore in detail the idea of PLTRs investing of capital in external businesses. I think it's a genius move. In this video, I'll hypothesize the bigger picture, what it means for the stock, and the company's long-term future, as well as how much Palantir could have spent on each deal. I will also add some clips from the Sarcos CEO directly talking about their relationship with PLTR. Let's go. Overview. Some of this video will be speculation on the intentions of Palantir, so let's get the facts out of the way first. On the Q1 call, Palantir said the following: "We are investing in innovation in the West, backing companies with ambitious goals and executing on our ability to move down market. And the fit is natural. Our software can radically accelerate production ramps and time to market and help these companies get to scale on dramatically shorter time horizons." So while this quote exactly may not be specifically referring to the SPAC investments that I will now get to, it does highlight Palantir's dedication to so-called investing in the West. So I think this is a real theme we will see going forward and not a one-off. Palantir has officially, over the last few months, started investing in other companies, those being Lilium, Sarcos, Celularity, and Wejo. The investing so far has manifested itself in buying into early pipe investments, that being private investment in public equity, of businesses looking to partake in SPAC mergers, also known as special purpose acquisition vehicles. For context, here's a brief illustration from Wall Street Journal about the SPAC process. The key takeaways of PIPEs, the instruments that Palantir is using to buy into SPACs. From Investopedia, private investment in public equity is when an institutional or an accredited investor buys stock directly from a public company below market price. Because they have less stringent regulatory requirements than public offerings, PIPEs save companies time and money and raise funds more quickly. The discounted price of PIPE shares means less capital for the company, and their issuance effectively dilutes the current shareholders' stake. But the bottom line is that Palantir is buying early equity in the four aforementioned companies. So who are these four companies? Now I'm going to break down the SPACs that Palantir has bought into so far and how much they could have spent. It's worth noting that Palantir's cash on hand for Q1 was $2.38 billion, a 110% increase year over year, so they do have the means to make some million-dollar buys here and there. Starting with Lilium, a German vertical takeoff and landing electrically powered personal air vehicle company. And if you want more information on any of these SPACs, just go look at my prior videos. I've covered them in depth. So here's a little chart I drew up. You will see one of these for each of the four companies. I'll read through this for the first time and then I'll just show you the screen grab for the next three. We have an overall pipe investment size of $450 million. This is for Lilium and their investment round. Some of the investors being Bailey Gifford, BlackRock with multiple funds, Tencent, and then I can go on to list them, Palantir among them. PIMCO also has multiple funds. So I'm being conservative and estimating a high-end range of 15 different investors involved. So to calculate Palantir's investment, now this is very much an approximation and estimation. I took the total pipe investment size and divided by the number of investors, which I'm estimating pretty highly to be 15, but I also divided by 2 because Palantir is not a dedicated fund. So I think it's a very conservative estimate to say that Palantir bought in with at least $15 million. It could be more than that, could be double, could be triple, but I think around $15 million isn't a bad estimation, and that was for Lilium. Palantir on the Q1 call said, quote, "We entered into a partnership with Lilium, a revolutionary eVTOL transportation company that will use Foundry to build an integrated business from the ground up, incorporating design and engineering, procurement, testing, production, quality, logistics, and in-service operations." Here's a video of Lilium talking about that very software that they use.
So over the past years, we've built up an extensive knowledge in flight dynamics and flight controls, very specific to our concept. We've developed very extensive aerodynamic data banks and models for our engines, and we combined this into a holistic flight physics model. So we developed all of the core elements of our flight control system in-house, and that specifically means the flight control laws, the software, the algorithms behind it, and we can use our flight dynamics models to test and develop all of this code so that we don't have to find out whether something works in flight test, but we actually can predict how the aircraft will behave way before in simulation. And the way that we've done it is we've built a lot of simulations And we've combined the aerodynamic data bank created from CFD simulations with the aerodynamic deck of the engines. We've included power models so that we can also model the power consumption in flight. And we've combined all of this into an extensive flight dynamics model. And that flight dynamics model is essentially a virtual or digital twin of the actual aircraft. We use this to develop all the flight control code. We've refined this knowledge and that capability over the past generations of prototypes in such a way that actually for Phoenix, we didn't have to retune any of the flight controls parameters in flight. We predicted it so well that actually we've just found that in flight, whatever we've flown before in simulation worked exactly that way in real life. That flight dynamics model is also used in our simulators. So we've built a VR simulator that we're also using for pilot training, for pilot evaluations, so that we bring in the pilot knowledge very early on in the process. And we can evaluate also code changes in the actual physics with the human in the loop, so that we can evaluate handling qualities and we can make sure that the aircraft doesn't just behave well, but it also controls well from a human perspective. So the flight dynamics model and the software development framework together actually mean a huge trade secret for us, because we've built up this proprietary knowledge over the past years and very specific for our configuration.
Next up is Sarcos Robotics, the second investment that we learned that Palantir has made, a developer of robotics and micro-electromechanical systems. Here's the CEO talking about the business.
Sarcos is a robotics company that is focused on producing industrial-grade robots that augment human workers instead of replace them. So think of full-body wearable robotic exoskeletons and remote-controlled robots that are intended to create the economic efficiencies of automation, but for all of those jobs that can't be automated. So think of construction workers, think of certain types of manufacturing environments, think of logistics applications where the job or the task is not repetitive in nature. We think for repetitive tasks, automation is great. But for the hundreds of millions of people around the world that are engaged in jobs that are not repetitive, our robots are intended to make them more productive and safer in the jobs. Some of the most obvious places that we're focused on are the construction industry, warehousing and logistics, so e-commerce warehouse companies, repair and maintenance associated with the power industry. And then I'd also point out the military, which is a key customer of ours as well.
Palantir on the Q1 call said, quote, "We have also partnered with Sarcos. We have always talked about Gotham as the digital Iron Man suit. Well, these guys, they're building the physical Iron Man suit. Sarcos will leverage Foundry for all of Palantir's well-understood industrials and manufacturing use cases. But you can see how Sarcos can leverage all the abilities of Apollo for Edge AI to push AI into their exoskeletons. This is Jarvis, Tony Stark's digital assistant, but in real life. These customers and even more prospects in our pipeline are at the forefront of the next major sea change software, architecting an entire organization around a common operating picture to deliver a connected company from the very beginning, eliminating the chains of silo data systems. So here is my estimation for Sarcos and how much Palantir could have possibly invested. Same sort of process, and that's what I came up with. Third, we have Celularity, a company focused on cancer, infectious, and degenerative diseases. So I've covered this one before. If you want to go back and learn more about them, just check out a prior video. And there is my estimation for this investment for Palantir. Here's a quick clip of the CEO talking about Palantir and Celularity.
In our industry, cellular medicine is still, to be quite candid, in its infancy. There's a tremendous amount to be learned by interrogating the biology of the source material that comprises the cellular medicines, and also understanding the biological activity, the performance in manufacturing, the performance clinically, and then using that data to make decisions about selecting products for different diseases, how to administer them, and ultimately how to present them to the regulatory community for things like registrations. We're very fortunate that Palantir not only decided to work with us as a company in cellular medicine, but they also, in fact, have an interest in participating as an equity owner of the company, which, as you know, is quite valuable to us. What Palantir brings to this relationship is the ability to work with enormous data sets and help us begin to decipher what's important, what's meaningful for us as we determine which product to take into which disease, and what's potentially predictive of the activity, the biological activity in patients.
And most recently, we have Wejo, a connected vehicle data company. I literally covered them in my last video, so go check that out for more information. But here's my estimation for how much Palantir could have invested. Analysis. So now for my analysis. To the best of my knowledge, this is something unique that Palantir is doing, and I don't think it's limited to SPACs. For example, in the future, if they wanted to invest directly into other companies that are already listed, I think they would be able to do that, and it would be very interesting to see that. The theme here is that Palantir is intimately involved with the given company when they choose it as an investment. The prerequisite is the use of Foundry, but also a highly specialized adaptation in a sense of the software. You'll notice how Lilium, Sarcos, Celularity, and Wejo have big plans focused around Palantir's software. It's not like they're just using it for inventory like any company could. My point is, Palantir isn't investing in every company that uses its software. No, these 4 companies are doing the literal product development and operations using Palantir Foundry. Here's the Sarcos CEO again with explicit mention to Palantir Foundry.
With the SPAC, some of the sponsors included BlackRock and Palantir. Can you explain, how they came to be and, what they see in Sarcos? I mentioned Palantir were a pretty hot company. What do you think their rationale is for the Sarcos investment?
So our whole business model is built around a robot as a service model where we're delivering our machines as a service to our customers, effectively as a next generation unit of labor to augment their workforce. If you think about what it involves for us to be able to deliver that kind of service, we have to be able to monitor the data and evaluate the data coming off of the machine so we can ensure that they're operating as expected. So that produces a ton of data that we need to be able to analyze, collate, and do something material with. And when you think about what Palantir's core competencies are with their software systems, we think it's going to be a very good marriage for their systems to really be the back end of what we're doing with our robot as a service model. So we see a lot of potential for us to work together, and we're in the early stages of exploring what that can look like.
But the thing that I take away the most is the following. The key insight for this video, if you will. Palantir would not be making these investments if they did not believe their software was absolutely revolutionary. The equivalent would be Apple buying stock in suppliers because they know how many iPhones they're about to sell, and they know how successful that is going to be for their suppliers. But it's also like that taken to the max. It would be Apple buying into a young supplier that has yet to grow and blossom into a fully fledged company. Overall, if Palantir didn't believe its software and its ability to generate serious alpha was a reality, then they wouldn't be leveraging themselves and shareholders by doing this. In the traditional sense, they're not a hedge fund, but by being leveraged with control over its own software platforms as its core business. I guess you could call it one in the making. I think businesses should do much more with investing other than investing back into the main business when possible. Whether that's cryptocurrency or something else, I think we will see many others in the future have an investment branch, how best to distribute cash that is not needed for the core business. Ultimately, Palantir's planting seeds here. Not all of these SPACs will be successful in the future, but Palantir owns some millions in each of these futures. I don't think they will be the last investments from Palantir, and I look forward to exploring the different moves ahead for PLTR. This video probably doesn't help much in the short term, but in my mind helps make sense of the long-term strategy for Palantir and the stock as a 15-year play, and how PLTR is multiplying its association with a few hand-picked early-stage companies that could deliver considerable returns alongside Palantir stock if all goes well. Otherwise, Palantir loses their initial investment. It's a calculated bet and not something that will bankrupt the company by any means. So with that, I will turn it over to you. Please share your thoughts in the comments. A lot of thought went into this video. Leave a like if you found it insightful, and subscribe if you're new to this channel and my tech stock analysis. Until next time.